Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I like. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Elementary. So in this episode, we find out that sadly, it isn't specifically Moriarty that's behind it. It is just her organization, which I was a little disappointed by. But still, that's still pretty awesome. It's interesting when you find out who the new head of the organization is. He's actually Moriarty's the father of her daughter, which is kind of interesting, which did get me thinking. It's like, so he had to be a part of the organization beforehand, because I feel like it'd be weird if they let an outsider, even if he is connected to Moriarty, to let an outsider join the organization. So that he must have been a part of it from the beginning, because essentially because the name of this episode is the Invisible Hand, because it's kind of like basically like a hand that kind of, he kind of brought order to the organization, because apparently Moriarty, she bridged a lot of gaps between a lot of people that are connected in this organization. And when she went to jail, it ended up, a lot of those gaps she filled ended up reopening, and it caused some problems, and he basically stepped up and took over the organization. A very interesting thing is that he essentially admitted the fact is that, because it was surprising, because the fact is, the moment Sherlock and Joan showed up, he was like, Sherlock Holmes, Joan Watson. He already knew who they were. He's like, why did it take you so long? Because the fact is, he already knew they existed, because the whole organization probably already knows about them specifically. Also, mainly because Moriarty has went out of her way to say they are protected. Nothing's to happen to Sherlock. It kind of it's understandable why with Sherlock, because it's like their connection. Plus, she's always found him very fascinating because he's such an intelligent dude. But then he turns and he's like, I'm not sure about you though. Why she wants you protected? Talking about Joan specifically, but it's because she herself didn't really think much of Joan. She was only interested in Sherlock. But during the season 1 finale, she was like, I kind of underestimated you. She kind of saw Joan as being very smart and intelligent and special in her own way. So she's taken an interest in Joan since then as well. So that's why she's protected. But it's very interesting how how this whole situation happened, because we still don't even know, because even Sherlock himself doesn't understand how this whole thing happened, because Moreland wasn't even aware of this organization until they killed Sabine. I mean, granted, he didn't even know about them even more so until Sherlock brought this information to light. Because granted, the organization went after him first. He even asked the guy, I think his name's Victor, it's like, asked him, why did you go after my dad? It's not like he knew about you existing. It's so, he looked at it to make sure, did their paths cross at any point? Maybe it was something his dad did, because that was kind of the assumption. Maybe his dad's business got mixed up with their business, but from what Sherlock was saying, it's like it didn't seem like that was the case. It seemed like out of nowhere they went after him, and it's like, why would you do that? Why would you start this war with my father? And it does make you wonder, why did they go after Moreland? Because there was kind of the running theory is, well, maybe because he got Moriarty arrested, they wanted payback, so they went after his dad. But it's like, he doesn't care that much for his dad. Him and his dad have been estranged for years, so it's like, if they wanted to target someone more valuable, someone more important to him, they could have picked a way different target. So that theory's kind of out there. Which, interestingly enough, kids, that in itself is brought up. The fact is that Sherlock and his dad aren't close, yet Sherlock is quote-unquote taking his side. Sherlock is fighting to protect him, which is like, you hate your dad so much, so why are you fighting to protect him? He's like, why are you on his side? Granted, you could argue it's because his dad in a way kind of made it his battle, because his dad brought his problems here to New York with him, and he's putting not just Sherlock's life in danger, but also Jones, as well as, could be putting Captain Gregson as well as Detective Bell in danger too. All the people he cares about, the life that he cares about, maybe more so than anything. Rather than sticking up necessarily for his dad, he could be fighting for the life that he's acquired here, the life that's brought stability to his life. But it does seem like even though he does despise his dad, maybe there is some level of him that is fighting for him because it's his dad, because he does love and care for his dad. Maybe, I don't know. You wouldn't really think he'd stick up for his dad, because it's not something I realized until he pointed out. I was like, yeah, he totally is fighting for his dad, isn't he? Even though he despises him so much, he continues to dig deeper and deeper into this. Which, granted, I wouldn't after what his dad said, which was like total horse crap. Essentially, his dad was mad because Sherlock figured out who's the head of the organization, but he's kept that information to himself. Like, essentially, everyone knows the name of the assassin, the guy that tried to blow up Moreland's building. He's actually the same assassin that killed Sabine and tried to kill Moreland a few years ago. But the fact of the matter is, the reason why... The thing is, he is blaming Sherlock, saying, like, it's because Sherlock took down Moriarty of this organization. He cut off the head but left the body behind. He essentially was like, everything that's happened, all the deaths that this organization has caused is on your hands. You've always talked about the blood on my hands, but there's blood on your hands too, because you didn't finish this organization when you had the opportunity to. You could have, but you didn't, and that sloppy work of yours is led to the events now. He's saying, like, because he was basically, Sherlock was talking about the fact is that he couldn't give the guy to his dad, because he's like, all you're going to do, like, first you're going to get the guy who bombed your place and killed Sabine, you're going to torture him until you get the information about the leader, and you're most likely going to kill him, and then you're going to go after the leader of the organization, and then you're going to kill him too. He's like, basically saying, because the NYPD doesn't have Moreland was saying, the NYPD doesn't have the resources to take down this organization. He's like, but someone as powerful as him has the power to do it, to take this organization out and put them down for good. Because it is kind of interesting, because Sherlock is kind of taking a more justice route, but I guess it kind of makes sense, because his own past with kind of taking things in his own hand didn't necessarily work out, because there was back in season 1 when he captured and tortured M to find out about trying to track, because he believed M was the one that killed Irene, so he was torturing him trying to find out why. So that was kind of one moment where he kind of took justice in his own hands, and that's typically not who he is, but because he has such a personal connection in that incident, in that instance, I guess that that now that he's kind of as he is now, and he's kind of like, it's not something that necessarily concerns him, he's kind of able to take a step back and be like, we should handle things, because he believes in the justice system. Like, it's not like, and also I feel like on one level, it's also just a middle finger to his dad too, just to be like, yeah, things aren't going to go your way. But it is crappy of him to be like, oh, it's Sherlock's fault for things being the way it is. It's like, truth be told, you're not the most honest citizen. You do have your hands in some very shady businesses. So it's like, because truth be told is, we don't know for sure that it's Sherlock's, taking down Moriarty was the reason anyway. That's highly unlikely. Maybe it is a case, but it seems highly unlikely. But it's like, your business attracts variable attention from different people. So it's like, you could have easily caught their eye for reasons that are your own and nothing to do with Sherlock. Maybe they had their eyes on you for a while. I don't know. I am highly curious. Like, what is the reason they went after him? I want to know that answer. Because it can't be just for revenge, and it doesn't seem like, because it wasn't until after they killed Sabine that Moreland started looking into their business. It's kind of turning stones over, kind of looking into crap they were doing. So it's like, until then, he never knew the organization existed. So it's not even like, oh, it couldn't have been I don't know. Maybe it was a cross between businesses or something else. I don't know. But he was super reluctant to talk about it. So who knows? But it's crappy. It's like, you've done a lot of shady stuff in your life. So it's like, don't try and make Sherlock feel like he's to blame for everything. Because even Sherlock kind of takes it as, takes the blame on himself, because he's like, well, I had a feeling, I knew that the organization still existed, but he kind of thought that the organization would fall apart without Moriarty. He had no idea that it would just a new leader would pop up and then the organization will come back stronger than ever. A very interesting thing, since I'm thinking about it, is Joan talked about, the fact is that Victor isn't the best suited for running the organization, because at least Moriarty kind of did a better job at running it. And Sherlock kind of looked at her like, that's very interesting. She's like, what? That's the first compliment you've ever given Moriarty. And she's like, okay, and she has great taste in shoes too. There, you happy now? It's like, it's very interesting, because she's never been so quick to I don't know. I don't know. It does seem like a very interesting thing too, like this episode, that I don't know. It just seems like this episode seemed like it had Sherlock thinking a lot more about Moriarty than he kind of has. I don't know. I don't know. I think no matter what happens and what's transpired, what happens, there will always be a part of him that cares for Moriarty. At least I think. But Another interesting thing, something that the Victor pointed out, the fact is that he, as you know, heard, like, during his daily life, he's just a teacher. And it's kind of interesting because he points out the fact is, well, Moriarty was a painter. It's like what you do as a profession doesn't affect, it comes down to whether you have the right vision to lead this group, essentially. And it's just kind of interesting. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters if you have the skill and the know-how to and the vision to see where you can take the group and see the opportunities that are laid out in front of you. So it's kind of interesting that you don't have to be some criminal, you don't have to have some heavily criminal past to lead that organization. And now that I'm thinking about it, it makes you wonder, how did Moriarty really get in that position in the first place? It's like, you are just a painter. How do you lead such a tight-knit organization? The real twist in the episode to me is when you find out that cop shows up and he's like, oh, is this the prisoner? I'm like, you're about to shoot him, aren't you? It's like, you're about to kill him. And he kills him, and then I hear a second shot. I was like, it wasn't the cops that took you down. You killed yourself. And that happened to be the case. Turns out he was another person that took that psychopath test from last episode. And to me, at the beginning, I was kind of like, oh, was it Moreland that hired him, or was that the organization? And I was like, no, it's the organization, because they're the ones that have been hiring these guys. But I was like, the sad thing is, it could have easily been Moreland. But I mean, granted, Moreland would have killed him. Moreland would have, because I was stupid at the time, because I was like, no, Moreland wouldn't have killed him, because Moreland would have had the cop take him, leave the precinct, take him to where Moreland is, so Moreland can torture him, get the information out of him. So it was definitely the organization killing him just to shut him up. Because the organization, they talked to Sherlock at that lady's funeral, was very twisted. Sherlock even brought up, is like, do you go to the funeral of all your victims? He's like, no, I just set up here because I knew you didn't 100% believe me when I said that you and Joan were protected, so I picked a very public place, for us to meet. Essentially, he brought up the fact is, let there be a truce between Moreland and the organization. And Sherlock's like, essentially, it's basically telling him, my dad's not going to accept that. My dad's kind of stubborn in that way. He is dead set on killing you because of what you did to Sabine. So it's very interesting that it's just that was an option, but it's even as someone watching the show, you're kind of like, yeah, Moreland would never take that deal. I mean, even if Sherlock could set up that situation, Moreland would just use it as an opportunity to kill him the moment he has a chance. So it'd be an interesting scene to see that. I mean, maybe that will come up in the next episode. I have no idea, but that would be interesting to see them kind of meet face to face, and both of them have snipers scattered around, people there to ready to take out the other. I think it'd be a very highly volatile situation. I mean, but And in the very end of the episode, we have Sherlock and Joan coming back home to discover they have a bomb waiting for them. So I love how they end the episode on that. That was very interesting. Not them getting out of their house. It's just nope, they get, because Sherlock was suspicious because the light of a neighbor or somebody's was on, and he was like, those people are out of town. So it ended up coming in, and there is a bomb waiting for them. So that was very interesting. Next week is the season finale, so I'm curious to see how this all goes down. I don't really know how to make heads or tails of the preview, so I'm not even going to talk about it. But it's just I don't really know what direction it's going in. What it seems like it might be going in, I'm wondering if that could possibly be connected to the Sherlock show. It's just they kind of did something similar. So, I mean, I know I don't like trying to make comparisons between the two, but it's just how it's season 2 ended, and if you are familiar with that, it's is there going to be a somewhat similar case? I don't know. There were just certain things that were brought up in that preview that made me instantly think of that, but maybe it's absolutely nothing like that. I am highly curious to see what goes down next episode, to find out how this whole situation ends. It's what's going to happen? I don't know, and I'm super excited to find out. But that's really all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.